All right, guys, welcome to Next Level Call. Very excited to have Matt and Paul in our office to talk to you about going into the holiday season. That really excites me because they're two people that I've known them each for 8, 9 years, and they've always been focused on finishing the year strong so they can start the following year even stronger. And they understand the importance of that, and that means they can show it, they can demonstrate it rather, and they can go ahead and teach it and lead people. So before we get into, I pass that over to them, I want to get into some numbers really quick. Month of November, so I'm going to read through these really quick, but I want to recognize these are all the sales managers for the month. Priscilla C, Mike O, Brig G, Luke B, Michael S, GT, Ethan T, Jared H, Paige L, Jeremy G, Shamara T, Teresa M, Charles H, Leticia M, Jordan S, and Matt W. Senior sales, so those people were above 50 grand, below 100, between 50 and 100. This group, senior sales managers, they were above $100,000 for the month, issue paid. Jermaine C, Linda L, Travis M, John Gavin, Zach E, Wayne C, Brandon L, Tiffany G, Tyler T, Todd S, Terry H, and Victor V was at 142, so just below VP. These individuals were above 150 grand, but below the 300, which puts you at EVP. Grady P, Vanina B, Nick A, Millie P, Albert L, Eric A, Gary P, Danielle B, Joseph M, Conrad P, Frank E, Athena V, Jack Y, Amy M, and Mickey T. The following 5 people are EVP. Galen Ware, $303,477 issue paid. Trey H, $308,797 paid. Brian M, $326,516. Ryan M, $387,715. Dominique Rogers, $491,910. Following 2 were senior VP. They were over 500 grand but below $1 million. Matt Smith, $556,175. John Wetmore, $967,493. The following 5 people were board member. They were above $1 million. Mark Mead, $1,290,971 issue paid for the month. Andrew Taylor, $1,315,448. Drew Jordan, $1,438,726. Paul McClain, $1,703,755. Apologize. Brent Abernathy, $1,942,078. And then we had 1 senior board member over $2 million for the month. That makes you a senior board member. Michael Killamet in Van First Life Southeast, $2,876,692.80. I'm going to read some producers really quick and get this over to you guys. We had hundreds and hundreds of silver producers. I don't have time to read all the names. I'm going to read the gold, platinum, and diamond. Jason, these are all gold producers. Jason B, Mauricio Z, Shelly M, David P, Michael P, Stephen T, Stephanie C, Edford B, Gary P, Gary R, Hyenshil C. If I pronounce your name wrong, please email us and let us know the correct pronunciation. I apologize. Aaron S, Jacqueline B, William L, Travell J, Jordan S, Silvana P, Lisa A, Wayne C, Michael A, Philip R, Dominic W, Victor V, Marcy L, Nicholas M, Daryl B, Frank D, David B, Justin H, David R, John Gavin, Andrew I, Zach L, Shamara T, Jordan T, Kevin B, Teresa M, Jermaine C, Raymond D, Stephen Y, Chris F, Jack Y, Corbin B, Samuel H, David W, Grady P. Following are platinum producers. So as you know, platinum is $30,000 issue paid for the month. Bronze $10,000, silver $15,000, gold $20,000, platinum $30,000, and diamond $40,000. These following were over $30K for the month. Charles H, Brandon C, James W, Lindsay V, Jeffrey E, Brittany S, Alexander L, Tiffany G, Kyle H, Piator O, Deonis G, Dean P, Chantel W, Nicole M, Daniel S, Len D, Zach T, Ryan M, Josh R, Marianne M, Conrad P, Galen W. The following 14 producers were diamond producers. highest producer level that we have. So congratulations, 40K and above. Joseph M, 40,208. John D, 40,813. Zach C, 41,085. Matthew John Smith, 41,740. Linda L, 42,322 paid. Astrid D, 42,981. Cynthia S, nice job, 43,332. Samantha D, 44,157. Jonathan P, always right next to you on the leaderboard. Jonathan P, 55,508. Millie P, 57,498. Spencer F, 65,084 paid for the month. God, that's some serious numbers. Tyler T, $78,011. Ivan V, who's been with us for a matter of months, $97,287 issue paid for the month. Number one producer is over $100,000. Amy M, $116,311.54. And talking about life business, Amy's life business was $78,205. Ivan issued $97,000, so that's great. Ivan issued $97,287 total volume. $97,287 was life premium. So I got nothing else to say. On that note, that's in a month. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to my buddy Matt. Paul, they will educate you on going into the holiday strong, finishing the year strong, and starting 2019 the way you need to. It is all yours, guys.
All right, thank you, Shawn, for having myself on the Next Level call. I'm Matt Smith. I'm live right here at corporate today. Excited to be with you. The first thing I'm going to need you to do is I need you to go ahead and like this, and I need you to share it with the entire world. I've said it on many other calls, but our businesses are too small because we're not getting the word out, and we're going to do close to 165 million overall business this year, and $250 million is on the radar for next year. So I'm excited about it, and as you can see with the numbers that were announced, we're well on our way. I'm getting excited because conference is getting close. For those of you that haven't booked your room at the Venetian, also letting your manager know that you're going and you're committed. There's nothing worse than you waffling right now on whether or not you should or shouldn't go. It's a free event. All you have to do is get there, and there's going to be a huge amount of training that you're going to have that's going to help propel your 2019 goals that you should be probably thinking about right now as the business goes on. This is a time for you to not press the pause button, by the way. This is a time for you to do two things, really. Enjoy the holidays with your family, yes. Have a couple nice days with your family, I'm all for that. At the same token, though, your momentum going into 2019 really starts right now. Wherever your mindset is, it's real easy to get complacent around this time of year. My challenge to all of you would be to try to push through that, try to break new barriers, try to change and adapt on some of those old things that you've thought of. I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions because they just don't really work. Generally, diets fail on day 3 or something like that. So just make sure that whatever your goals are for 2019, that you start that year now. Start it today. Do something different now. Replace one of your poor habits that you have with a good one. It could be simple things too. So I think the first thing that I'm going to start with is talking about your habits, your rituals, all those different things in regards to your schedule is really the difference between you winning and losing in 2019. A lot of the things that we've done, if you're new or coming on, I can give you some of these tips and it would work for the veteran agents too. But I think you got to just look at, if you want more, that you've got to do more. And do more doesn't always mean that, I'm not just talking about time commitment, I'm just talking about efficiency with your time. I think there's a lot of wasted time on every single day as any self-employed individual has. So when you start to look into your calendar and maybe break it down into 15-minute segments of the day, I think you'll find yourself with a lot more time, and the more intentional that you get with your calendar, I promise you, the more successful you'll be in business. So whether you're doing your dials on Mondays and Thursdays, like a lot of different agencies, or you're doing your dials on a Saturday. The one big message I want to start with is, any dial time is a good time to dial. And the other thing I would tell you that's been the message by Dom or Mark on these calls in the previous weeks before is you shouldn't really have a dial time per se. You should just have that goal number that you need to set to get in front of everybody every single week to be successful. So if 30 appointments is the number for 2019 that we would want you to do if you're a 40 an hour a week full-time producer, then you're going to have to spend that much time dialing 2 different segments, because you want to break it up into 2s, because if you just dial 1 time a week, you're going to have a lot of no-shows on the back end of the week. So you want to tighten up your dial time, make sure that you're booking no later than really 48 hours. What's evolved for a lot of people in business, what's worked really well for agents as you're getting these live like Facebook leads in, etc., is they're doing same-day appointments now. These people are home. They're interested. Feel free to book them same day too. Now that doesn't mean right when you start booking same day appointments a couple days later, because you've got to, or a couple hours later, because you've got to get your dials in to make sure you set your appointments, because this is where people fail all the time. The one thing that's worked for me personally that I can think of over the years that's a very effective tool that I've always challenged our agency with, and really top producers, I've seen them do much better, is whatever that number is, if it's 30 appointments, etc. If you sit there and you actually call for an extra hour. So whenever you're satisfied with your appointment number, call for that extra hour that day and do a little bit more, because it's never what you think it is. I know for a fact on weeks where I felt super good about my appointment count that they haven't gone so well. I know sometimes when my appointment counts are not, you just never know. But all I do know is putting in the extra effort to dial that extra hour is going to be something you won't regret at the end of the day. So when you've finally said, I've got X, I got my 15 appointments set over these next 2 days or whatever, dial for another hour and do 20. Book on the ones that you thought were poor, book on top of them a little bit so you have options. Right? Do a little bit more. So that would be my challenge in 2019 is when you're setting out your schedule, how intentional is it? So we talked about dials. We talked about, days running as far as everybody can do that differently. I believe that you have to work a minimum of 4 full days in the field. And if you're super broke, that's 6 days in the field. So it really depends on where you're at with your money, your mindset, everything else. But if you are running those 8 to 10 appointments a day, you should be able to get that 30 count that we're looking for efficiently within a 4-day period. Because you want to leave other parts of the week where you're actually going to be able to get contracted agents, help grow your own agency, help build your company. Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to help other people get what they want, because that will make you more happy, I promise. So a couple of things as far as when you get into these field days, what I've seen. I can think about a couple weeks ago when I was here in Connecticut, and I was having a conversation with Trey at our founders dinner at Michael Jordan's Steakhouse. Thank you, Americo. And we were talking about what agents struggle with the most. And the one thing that I find really fascinating about this business is you'll buy a lead, right? You'll make the dials, maybe even overcome an objection. You drive X amount of hours, you're gone for the whole day, right? Start to finish, you're gone 12 hours a day or something like that as you run appointments. And maybe you got to drive a couple hours to get to where you're running business. I don't know your specific scenario. But my point is, it takes effort. You sit in front of the client, you get to know them a little bit, you're building rapport, you do your financial inventory, you're doing all those things. You go to close, and you get no. And then you fold up shop and you leave. What I'm telling you is a lot of you in the field are going through the motions. I don't think we've talked about this enough on calls. I think that you are literally doing 90% of everything right, but because you don't finish that extra 10% is probably the reason why you're right here with your bills. Water, I can breathe, Now I can't. I can breathe, right? It's not good. It's because when there's a small amount of resistance, you end up folding like a taco. I need you not to do that. So I'm going to cover a few little quick tips for you that are going to help you pivot in the sale, which will help you create more income in 2019. It's going to be big for you guys. So when you're sitting down with your clients and they say no, do you know why they generally say no, by the way? I mean, of course, I've talked about in previous calls that you need 5 things in a sale. They need to believe in you. They need to believe in the product. They need to believe in the solution. Understand? They need to believe in the company with the product. They need to know all those 3 things. And then we always make sure that we have a logical reason why they purchased through the financial inventory. And then we also storytell and bring out emotion, because once they get emotional, that's where the buying decision happens, because 95% of the time, without any emotion, they won't purchase. So emotion's huge. But once they hit the emotional button with the storytelling, they are going to check their logic. So if you don't do a good job of financial inventory, you're not going to get them to move, because it goes from emotional to logical. It makes financial sense, and then they move. So your product, your solution, logical, emotional. So long story short is that last 10%, let's just say that you've done a decent job at those 5 things that I think you need in every single household. You come to the point where they still say no for whatever reason. Maybe it was your certainty, maybe it was your lack of passion. I think a lot of times in a house, you're lukewarm. And what happens is, because you are going through the motions and you're lukewarm, the client can sense that. It means that you don't care enough, and they can sense that too, and they end up doing nothing. One of the best examples that I've given in the past just recently is probably hiring a new agent and taking him out in the field. It's something I personally struggle with. I'm just being honest with you. I'm doing it more now. It's helped me. It's helped me in the field. The reason why it's helped me in the field is because now I've got a second set of eyes of accountability on myself, and I'm not going through the motions. Now when I get objections, I'm able to pivot. So I would challenge you on 2 things, and we'll get to the pivoting and what to do and what to say and all those things here in a second. I would challenge you to just hire 1 person a week. Man, hire 1 person a week at least to have that accountability factor, because what if you closed 30% better? Whether it's on the phone, what if you got that much better on the phone by setting appointments because someone else now you're accountable for someone? What if in the house you're 30% better than you were? It's going to yield huge results. So you want to trick yourself into actually becoming more profitable. Hire a person a week. It will do tremendous things for them. It'll be tremendous for you and your business as well. I think that's something that I'm going to focus on in 2019. The more people we can help, the better off you'll be able to help yourself. So it's reciprocal. So in regards to when you get these objections, and how I see it is, most people, there's different stats on this stuff, but a lot of times, like 80% of people that get no don't even ask again. I've heard that you've had to get at least 5 no's before you get a yes, all those different stats. To be honest with you, I don't know the real number behind how many times you need to ask for the business, but I do know that you have to be able to ask in different ways. And I do know that it really comes down to one thing. Generally speaking, it's the value over price proposition. So let's say you did a pretty good job of building a decent amount of value in the product, and you do not get the sale. I think that's where you can turn to like an accidental death product, for example. Let me give you an example of an appointment I just recently ran. So offered them a cashback scenario to help pay off their mortgage early. They really didn't have a lot of extra money to even pay on their mortgage. So they were strapped. Just purchased the house. Just got a new job too, so there was some variables that you got to be aware of when you're talking to clients, like understanding their circumstances. I think having a lot of empathy with your clients is a big deal when it comes to sales. So be able to put yourself in their shoes to understand where they're at is a huge deal. The one thing that I could make them agree on because of their financial situation was they needed to do something now. They were 54 years old. at a $330,000 mortgage. I go, you got a decent sized mortgage right now, right? And you know you need the coverage, right? Yeah, we know we need the coverage. You know that you don't have the finances. If something happens, there's no survivorship, at least at a minimum age of 60 for Social Security. So you know the next 6 years to really the full retirement age of 67 is you're going to be your biggest danger point. You had told me that your parents were alive still and in decent health. You told me all your siblings are alive. You guys are in pretty good health as we speak right now. So here's what I'm going to recommend. You spend $93 a month for $350,000 worth of coverage to cover both of you on the house. And at least you could have some sort of scenario where if you are texting and driving, or you probably see all the wrecks right now, especially with the weather out there all over the country, it's dangerous out there. So since you see that, I'm sure you see the value in making sure you have something like that versus I had like a $350 budget previously. And all of a sudden I saw their body language sink. All of a sudden I saw their heads nodding yes. And I was able to get $1,100 and some worth of annual premium out of a house that I was coming down in price based off of some top-down selling, even coming off that $350 budget. My whole point to this is I ended up pivoting products, got off that product, and went to like an accidental death. I'm just using that as an example. I think that right there will make you extra 50 grand next year. I really, truly believe that. Meaning I think your ability to pivot, and this could be a multitude of things. Some of the people that we're with are, maybe they have pensions and they don't have, they have survivorship on it, so the income isn't affected as much. Maybe they are almost self-insured because of their retirement accounts. So your ability to pivot to a retirement account might be the difference between you adding an extra 6 figures to your income this year too. And what I see is that a lot of people just present that one product and then they end up just not even presenting again. And you've got to realize once you leave the house, you are not going to get their business again. It doesn't matter how nice they are to you. You are done once you leave that house. I can only give you like exceptions over the decade that I've done, maybe once a year I'll get the call back, right? But I'm told all the time they're going to call me back. So if you don't leave the house with a check, it becomes, a real problem. The next scenario that I could give you is, I think people overcomplicate the retirement quadrant, and I'm going to keep this pretty simple for this portion of the call. But I think what happens is people get scared to talk about it, and you just need to break it down into simple things. And what will help you is understanding that this will help you move a lot of money. And I say this to clients: if somebody's got 200 to 400 grand or whatever the number is, and that's generally where these clients are. Sure, we'll meet some clients that have a lot more money than that, but I almost, for the vast majority, and it doesn't mean the advisor's a poor person or a bad person or anything like that, but they simply do not care enough about your money. They, like this clients I met the other day, had like 180 grand and they're 63, and that's just not a high priority account for the vast majority of advisors out there. So my whole point is, the biggest way your money can leave you is when you don't pay attention to it and you're having it managed. So you need to have some sort of automated approach that really locks in gains, doesn't participate in losses, and is able to give you a nice aggressive withdrawal strategy where it can give you a good chance of not outliving your money, or at least give you the idea that you can turn on a lifetime income and pay yourself for the rest of your life. So a lot of times with these new agents, because they feel like they don't have any confidence in that quintet of business, if you just keep it simple and say, man, nobody really cares about your money. Do you know that? Did you know that? I mean, really, when it gets right down to it, did you know that? And if you notice, there's a lot of different scenarios where people might be withdrawing too much money from their accounts and they don't know it, or they're not aware of it. They could be not aware of their account going down significantly this year. They think the market's gone up when it's really gone up at the beginning of the year, but all the gains got taken down, and who knows if we're in a bear market, we could potentially get there. So these are some of the things that I would tell you is just don't be scared to have an unorthodox conversation in the house. I think the biggest thing I could tell you is, as a new agent is, I'm going to talk both sides of the mouth, is you need to have structure with that financial inventory, but it's okay to have an unorthodox, untimely, what you think is untimely. It's okay to have those conversations. A lot of people have asked me year over year, when am I supposed to talk to the client about retirement plan? Anytime's a good time. Anytime's a good time to dial. Anytime's a good time to talk about the retirement. It doesn't matter. You're just overthinking it. The problem is this. This is my main message. You're literally doing 90% of that work. But when it comes to the closing part, the last 10%, where the value's there, where the emotion's there, where everything's needed, you're not, if you are being honest with yourself, because I'm no different, you're not doing a good enough job. You're not caring enough about the client. You're not able to, when you get a no, you're just so shocked. It's like, it's a thinking person's game. Go into your appointments with a plan B. If I offer them this, if they say no, I'm going to do this. That's all you need to know. Keep it simple as a producer, and I think you'll have a huge 2019. So I'm going to pass it on to my buddy Paul McClain. He's I think he's number 4 all time at Family First Life for sales, and I've learned a tremendous amount over the last 10 years of being around this guy. So he used to be a young kid, and now he's like a grown adult. I mean, he's 30 years old at this point. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. And more importantly, when Paul comes on, you should be liking and sharing this too, because Paul's great. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you, man. Yeah. And I think looking back now, I've been doing this for over a decade. So 11 years ago, I got licensed, and there's a couple people that have really helped shape the way I do things, my sales process, my hiring process, and Matt, dude, you've definitely helped shape the way I see sales and how I deal with clients and that whole perspective. And that's a beautiful thing about this business. Like, when I came on board, my thought process was at a level that I didn't want it to be at, meaning that the thought process that I had, it attracted the income that I was seeing. It was who I was, right? Thoughts are things. And so early on, I started to realize that, hey, if I can get around people that had this elevated thought process, I can start to shift and change mine into their likeness. And so, I know that, like, when you have a football game, right, they get in this huddle, everybody starts smacking each other, and I'm like, yeah, let's go get them. They're all pumped up. And for me in insurance, it wasn't that exciting as far as you don't get in the huddle and start smacking each other, which wouldn't be a bad idea. I think some people might need that. But for me, I would plug into the calls, man. When I was driving from one house to the next, I was listening to conference calls, and I'm going to speak to consistency, and really right now we're on the precipice of having a great breakthrough for a lot of you guys that are tuned in. You can make these next 2 weeks absolute breakthrough moments where you look back a year, 2 years from now, and you say, you know what, my business changed, my income changed, my lifestyle changed. What I can do today was a direct result of what I did ending 2018. But I remember plugging into those calls and being disciplined to make sure that when I got in my car and I was going from one appointment to the next, that I continued to keep my thought process where it needed to be. Right? I continued to think about my in-home, sitting with clients, the value that what we do brings to these families, and I think that's a big deal. I've done a lot of things wrong, more things wrong than I think I've done right. But one of the things that I always kind of point to is over the past 11 years, I was never the #1 producer in a given month. I don't know if I was top 5. I wasn't that good in a given month, but I always was top 10, and that was just because of that consistency. And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about what that consistency looks like, because maybe you're not the producer that's going to go out and write $80,000 issue paid in a month. And I think nowadays it takes over $150,000 to be a top producer in a given month. But I think you could be a $40K producer, issue pay that every single month in and month out, if you develop some disciplines and some consistencies. And that's one of them. It's like making sure that, you're protecting your thought process, and you're putting yourself in the best position to respond and react to adversities throughout your day. And I've talked to quite a few producers, and when they drive from one house to the next, they kind of just listen to the radio. And I think a lot of times you don't realize how the small compromises, those habits that seem so minute, they start chipping away at you, and then all of a sudden, you end up way further off than you would have been, and it was just that small little habit. And so that'd be one of them, making sure that, when you're playing the game and when you're out there sitting with families, it's game time. Buckle up, put your chin strap on. You're out there protecting families. You've got to have your game face on. And so, what are you putting into your head when you're going from one house to the next? You see, that seems small, but when I'm driving from appointment 1 to appointment 2, and I might have had a no sell in appointment 1, I'm now able to take my experience and line it up with a model that's correct, with the right duplicatable in-home, i.e. at that time it was Matt every time I went from one house to the next. And so I could see my deviation. I could say, okay, this is exactly where I was off, or I was kind of thinking about myself. I didn't put them first. I didn't challenge them enough. I wasn't direct enough. And my goal was like, this business is so simple. Like, it wasn't that deep. In high school or college, I had to study for courses. And I would put in hours and hours and hours. I remember one time in college, it was a public speaking class, and this one girl got up there and she spoke in front of the class, and she got so nervous, Matt, that she ran off to the corner and she just like stared there. I mean, I thought the teacher put her in timeout. I was like, that's what I do to my kids, but she was self-induced. She did it for herself, and it was because she was so nervous because she hadn't prepared or planned or anything like that. And I was like, God, I don't want to do that. And so I spent so many hours late at night, early in the morning, just like doing whatever I could to make sure I didn't do that, and then I passed the test. And I think people, agents, as they come on board, they put less intention into getting their thought process in line with the ones that are out there $40K plus a month than the person that's trying to pass a college course. Are you staying up late at night studying and practicing, rehearsing? And so for me, I knew that I treated this like a class, like it was a course. Like if I could just, plug in, and there's only so many scenarios, there's only, so many client situations, 75-year-old guy, single, big mortgage, married, unhealthy 42-year-old, healthy 25, final expense. There's only so many scenarios. And so my goal was, if I could go out there and take massive action and stay consistent all the time, from activity to activity, the lower amount of time that separates that one action from the next, I don't have doubt, disbelief, discouragement, falsified labeling, thinking maybe I can't do this, maybe it's not for me. If I'm taking action right after it, I squeeze all that out. I don't have time to think about that stuff. And typically an idle mind, you just have an open thoughts, it's not good, right? You've got to be intentional and fill that white space in. And so for me, I wanted to have as much of my schedule filled in. I wanted to be busy nonstop. But when I wasn't out there in money-making activity time, when it was downtime, I wanted to make sure I got, and instead of an A, this translates into multiple six figures. And I really think that's what leads to consistency, is making sure that, for one, that you've got a schedule in place. And right now, being the fact that we're really 2 weeks away from the end of the year, we're wrapping up the year pretty close. What you don't want to do is set the, put the cards against you, stack the deck against you. What does that look like? That looks like January 1st, you've got all these goals, right? It looks like the person that says, I'm going to lose 20 pounds in January 1st. That's my New Year's resolution. And then they put on 8 more pounds before now and then. I mean, think about the way you're starting that now. You're starting with discouragement, a lack of confidence. You're almost kind of defeated. You're like, man, I want to lose 20. I'm already 8 pounds worse off than I was, because you're like, I'm going to wait until then. And so right now is the time where you want to put in some new disciplines, right? What does that mean? Well, I mean, are you running 20 appointments every single week? Are you running 30 appointments every single week? Or is it sometimes you do, sometimes you don't? Do you have any non-negotiables? Are you hiring at all? Is that one of your desires, January 1st? Lead flow. Are you like, I kind of want to try these leads out, but I'm kind of holding off. Maybe I'll do it in a couple weeks. Whatever that makes sense 2 weeks from now, it makes sense now. But the difference is if you take the action right now on it, come January 1st, you're going to have some small victories underneath your belt. You're going to start to see some progress, and that confidence is going to enable you to not just have this good intent in January 1st, but to build some real disciplines. And I think that's what led to the consistency over the last 11 years was just, a couple good disciplines. And a couple of those were this. So Mondays and Thursdays, dial days, and in that dial day, having non-negotiables, right? See, I think a lot of times as a producer, it's like, I give you an example, like an employee, if I say you have to do this, they really can't entertain anything else but doing that. They can't say, well, I don't really agree, I'm going to put it off, because as an employee, you've got that fear of loss. You're going to lose your job. Once we become self-employed, I think a lot of times what kills us is we think, okay, now we're entitled to have this schedule, and we can say yes to whatever we want to say yes to. So we say yes to so many things, and we don't say no to nothing. So when the long run happens, as years go by, we can't ever say yes to the things we really want because we didn't say no to the things in the beginning while we needed to build momentum and get inertia and get this thing moving because it's your business. And so I think we've got to have those non-negotiables where you say, hey, listen, it's Monday. I'm not just going to say I want to or I'm going to try to book 12 appointments for Tuesday and Wednesday. No, you're going to say I'm absolutely going to do this. It's a non-negotiable. Now, if it's a non-negotiable, you start right away. You don't put it off until 12 or 1 because you don't want to set the cards against you. You don't want to stick the deck against you. You want to start right away. And so it's a non-negotiable. You don't have to have an alarm clock because this is a non-negotiable. I have to get this done. And so Mondays, if that's your dial day, you got to say, hey, this is the amount of appointments I'm going to hit. I'm not going to stop until I hit it. And if it's a non-negotiable and it's not something that you're just saying based off of a good intent, you'll make sure you're planned and prepared on Sunday. So when you go into Monday, you don't have any chance of missing your non-negotiable and work you're willing to do. That's a given, right? And so that'd be one of the non-negotiables you want to have is Mondays and Thursdays. Those days, nobody can step on it. That's your day to dial. Nothing gets in the way. And you've really got to trick your mind into that. And you got to structure yourself and say, hey, 8 o'clock to 12, I'm going to dial. Maybe 12 to 1, you get lunch. And then 2 o'clock until whenever, that's when I'm going to hit my goal. And see, what happens is this, and I've watched this a lot in my office as we have agents come in and out, is the ones that stay until 8 o'clock, right, they sacrifice a little bit longer when they have to. And the thing is this, the ones that stay until 8:30, they don't have to stay until 8:30 every night because those are the ones that are willing to do it and are committed to doing it. It's not just lip service. So they're the ones that start at 8 and typically they're done by 5 or 6 and they've hit their goal. But they're willing to do whatever it takes to hit it. And the ones that are there later, they feel so much better. Like when they get home and they get into bed, or if they run that last 9 o'clock p.m. appointment, they get home at 11 o'clock, they feel so much better regardless of the outcome because they knew that they did what they were supposed to do than the person that thinks, you know what, I really don't feel like doing this, so I'm going to go ahead and just find some fictitious excuse or make up something to validate my decision so I don't have to feel bad about myself. And see, I think that's the most dangerous thing is when you make those small little decisions and let that compromise creep in, you don't realize it's killing you, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're not where you want to be and you're confused why other people are so far ahead. It was just that slight edge, that little bit difference, those non-negotiables in your schedule. And so when you have non-negotiables, it keeps you emotionally stable. Why? Because when it's negotiables, now you've got scattered energy. You're thinking like, well, I don't have to do it. It's not a non-negotiable. And so maybe I won't, maybe I will. And so now you're all over the place, right? And so creating those non-negotiables, when it comes to running appointments, it's got to be, I'm going to hit this volume no matter what. And so what does that enable you to do? Well, when you're in the field, you're door knocking between one house and the next, right? If you've got 30 minutes and you've got 3 openings on a Wednesday, on that Tuesday, you're pulling over and you're calling those appointments. If your 8 o'clock appointment or 7:30 o'clock appointment no-shows you and you got a 2-hour drive home, you think like a business owner because it's a non-negotiable, so you have to figure it out. You've got to be solution-minded, not problem-spotting. And so you say, you know what, instead of me driving home 2 hours, get in the door at 9:30, which I can't dial at 9:30, I'm going to go ahead and pull over, dial from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, and then drive home and get home at 11 and make sure I fill in all my spots in my next day. That's when you feel the best. It's like that little bit extra, right? If you go the extra mile there's hardly any traffic. And so anytime I've always done what I don't want to do, and I don't feel like doing, that's where the greatest breakthroughs take place. In fact, the greatest denominator, or common denominator of success says successful people form the habits of doing the things that failures don't like to do. It's not like the failures, the successful people like to do it. They hate it too, but they tie that activity to the big picture. They say, this is where I'm going to go. This is what it's going to look like. And so because they tie that pain and they trade it off with what it's going to look like, the payoff later, they're able to make that sacrifice. And after so many weeks of that sacrifice taking place and being disciplined because of the way they tie their emotions to the payoff, not the price, all of a sudden it becomes habit and routine. And all of a sudden they wake up and they're way over here and the other person's here. So it's just small, subtle changes, right? If it's waking up, one of the best things I started doing to develop consistencies was waking up at 5 o'clock. And why was it important? Well, for one, it sucked right away, just so you know. I hated it. But after like 30 days, it didn't make a difference. It was no different than me waking up at 7. And the funny thing is, a person that wakes up at 7, that knows it makes more sense to wake up at 5, they'll try to frown upon and be like, that person's crazy. I don't know why they would do that. Because they're not willing to make that change that's going to put them in a better position in their life. So they just kind of point fingers and judge and downplay and demean the right habit. And that was me. So, but when I finally said, success and what I could do for my 4 daughters, the life I could provide for my family, that's much better than the 2 hours of extra sleep. And if I can sacrifice that for 30 days, then I'm just like the person waking up at 7 because there's no pain no more. The discipline has created a new habit. So it was only painful for a period of time. And so waking up at 5 o'clock, what did that allow me to do? It allowed me to kind of take control of my day and make sure that I could plan and reflect, right? I think a lot of times, our big struggle as self-employed business owners is we're just reacting to all these different things because we're not planning anything. And if we don't put a plan in place, if we're not intentional about structuring our schedule, then the situations and circumstances and conditions of your life, they're going to control you. They're going to control your schedule, right? It's kind of like the prison system, right? People get out of the prison system, where they go into prison, they've got tons of structure. You got to wake up at this time, lights on, lights off. This is when you got to go to the yard. This is when you got to eat. This is when you got to do this. It's so structured that they start to develop good disciplines, and then once they get out, guess what happens? That structure's taken away. And that's why a lot of times they land back into prison, because they seek that structure. And see, that's what we need to make sure we do for ourselves, is how do we force ourselves to be structured and tie ourselves to the right things and continue to do that. And so in the morning, that's what kind of helped me stay fortified to make sure that I continue to be consistent and emotionally stable throughout the day. And so in the morning, I wake up. I think gratitude is an important action you can take. I don't know about the whole attitude of gratitude. I think gratitude is an action step. It's something that you got to do. But I wake up and I'm grateful. I'm thankful for where I'm at, right? I've got this happy discontent, but I'm grateful for what I've got, because I know if I want more of what I'm grateful for, I got to think about it. I got to praise God for it. And I think you enter the gates of the next levels of your business with thanksgiving, being thankful for where you're going to be able to get to, and seeing that clearly, and having a realistic approach that I need to trade this off today to get there, but I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to be there. Like, if you're listening to this video, you're a family first life. You can make a 7-figure income here. That's something to be grateful for. You can impact a lot of lives. That's something to be grateful for. But I wake up and I'm thankful for the stuff, and I get my mind thinking about what's good, because I want more of that. And then I have affirmations declaring where I want to go. And so it's a good idea right now to reflect and game plan over the next couple of weeks. For one, plan what's going on with Christmas and all that stuff. You're going to feel a lot better with the family if you've got a game plan. If you say, I'm going to switch my dial day to here, and then you go out there and you follow through, that Christmas meal that you have, I just promise you guys, it's gonna taste so much better. And that's kind of what I think drove me a lot to be consistent, was I would think about that. Like, if I just put this off now, I don't want to be thinking about work while I'm with the family, and when I'm at work, I don't want to be thinking about family. I didn't want to live in that middle ground. I wanted to make sure that I did everything I could in my work hours and collapse time frames and be effective and efficient, So when I was taking off my work hat and putting on my dad hat or family hat or husband hat, I could do that and I could effectively let go. And so plan ahead so you can enjoy that, right? But make sure you start to reflect. I think self-awareness is going to allow you to understand what needs to be tweaked and adjusted, because everybody's different. You know, for me, I had to adjust a lot of things, and as I go into the next week or two, I'm going to spend some time thinking about, you know, what do I need to change? You know, where am I at? Why am I here? What's my biggest weakness, biggest strength? What do I need to do more of, less of? I'm going to think about that stuff so that way I can make 2019 the best year I can be. So you've got to kind of create an awareness of where you're at, so that way you know where to go. I think a lot of times the room's so dark, the lights are off, you have no clarity of where to step. And so when you start stepping, you're landing in all these landmines and these pitfalls, and you're wondering, why am I discouraged? Well, discouragement is giving everything you've got, right, and not seeing progress. Well, if you're not aware of where you need to give everything you've got, you won't see progress, right? So maybe you need to get more leads. You're like, I'm giving everything I've got, calling leads and dialing, but if you're dialing 4-year-old leads and you won't invest in the resources, that might be your struggle. So create some awareness and then put a game plan in place and realize that what you do today, it makes a difference, right? I think most people, they overestimate what they can do in the next week and they underestimate what they can do in a year. 12 months from now, guys, you could be looking at your financial situation and what you can do for your family. It could be so much different than what it is today. And it's just, that's not just lip service. Remind yourself of all these success stories, of all these different people and what they're doing, because it'll help create the right picture in your mind, saying that this is possible. I just need to follow my game plan, be consistent, not high and low, and it'll work out. So thank you for having me on. Shawn Meaike, thank you so much, man. I appreciate everything you do for my family, and I'm going to pass it back to you. Thank you, brother.
Greetings everyone, Shawn Ruggiero. I want to talk today on the Next Level Call about annuities and how we're going to increase our ability to sell annuities. Shawn and I were speaking the other day, we actually had the founders meeting, and posed the question, what percentage of our agents are selling annuities? And by calculation, we think it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of the agents. So, you know, when we look at that, that's maybe 2 out of 10 agents, maybe 1.5 out of 10 agents. The main reason why agents aren't selling them is because they lack the confidence. They feel like they're out of their element. They're a fish out of water if they're trying to sell annuities to someone, because it's not what they're there for. They're there to sell mortgage protection or final expense or help them with their life insurance needs. Obviously, that's true. We're there to sell life insurance, but selling an annuity is a logical next step. And it makes a lot of sense right now because of the industry. See, the industry, this is the best time to be selling annuities. And that's not just lip service. What I mean by that is, up to this point, you could argue it's a pretty difficult time to sell annuities. What I mean by that is that bond yields were fairly low, so people put their money in the stock market. And since 2019, the stock market was rising and rising and rising. Now, that rise is over. We're headed definitely into a correction. The market has already been correcting itself. Losses in the S&P, on the NASDAQ and the Russell are approaching 10% from the high. We've lost money in 2018. This is the first time since 2008, 2009 that we'll have lost money. And the idea that, hey, I remember what it's like. I don't want to suffer these losses. What are my other choices? See, we've been selling in a market where bond rates are low, which means that some of the underlying yields that annuities can offer are low, and the market's doing well. Well, that is changing. If you've heard me teach or talk before at annual convention, by the way, the next convention is coming up, January 30th through February 2nd, the Venetian in Las Vegas. But I talk about what I see in the magazines of our competitors. Now, I say competitors loosely. There's plenty of people who can sell annuities that work in the financial advisor side. But if we think of the traditional financial advisor, we're thinking of someone who is a securities licensed advisor who sells primarily mutual funds, variable annuities, certain securities regulated devices, bonds, stocks, variable annuities. And that person is usually who we're competing with when we're trying to sell a fixed index annuity. Most traditional advisors are rated by their assets under management. And since an FIA, like let's say a Performance Elite from Athene, is not regulated by the SEC, therefore it cannot count towards that advisor's assets under management, or AUM. So what are they going to do? They're going to not sell it. You know, it's like if I sold Toyotas and my competitor sells Fords, it doesn't matter if you want horsepower, 4x4, towing capacity, gas mileage, whichever car the Ford dealer is going to sell you, I'm going to try to sell you my Toyota because I believe it's better. Now, that doesn't make it bad. In fact, it's been proven it makes it good. See, competition is the number one thing that keeps the stock market in line, keeps annuity companies in line, it keeps our economy in line. Competition is good. So we welcome competition. The problem is that we haven't been competitive as agents. We cower down, we say, well, I'm not a financial advisor per se. I don't have a CFP designation. So I don't understand all these other things like, what the alpha is, or the beta, or the standard deviation, or, what a price per earnings means. So I'm not qualified to help people out. It's absolutely not true. So what I'm trying to show you is some things here that have come to the surface, some things that are coming to the forefront of financial planning that put you in the pole position to succeed. So here I have this Financial Advisor magazine. I've shown you this before. Again, this is your competition, quote unquote, who reads and advertises in this magazine. What do we have on the paid cover? These things are very expensive to sponsor. We have an annuity, okay? Whose income are you responsible for, right? We have this handsome, maybe 60-year-old guy who is thinking hard about whose income he's responsible for. Your clients want protected monthly income for life. An annuity from Lincoln can help. Wow, look at that. The cover. You used to never see income or income annuities or any sort of annuity on the cover. Let's open it up. I'm going to go through the first 10 pages. 2-page spread. Boom, boom. So we have the cover, and now we have another FIA, Bright Ass Financial, advertising an FIA, fixed index annuity. A new conversation on annuities has begun. There you go. So how silly are we for bringing up the conversation of annuities when large companies like Athene, there we go, there's another annuity advertisement. We have the cover, the first 2 pages, the third page in. Another one from Allianz says, the new Allianz income annuity designed to help your clients make up for lost savings. All right, lost savings, lost time. Annuities bring in income. They have statistics here, okay, talking about they want to avoid risk. They want lifetime income. And then on page 10, yet another annuity advertisement. Okay, this is getting a little bit gratuitous, but you understand my point. This is your competition. Your competition is being hammered with income. This is another one. If you think an annuity is hard to explain, try telling a client they may run out of income. Their words, not mine. So that's what your competition is gobbling up. The industry is heading towards income. It needs to be heading towards income because we've had a big run. Now they're saying, what do we do? In fact, there's an article that goes into depth that 2 widely renowned financial advisors who teach, they're professors. One I think was actually some sort of Nobel Prize winner on mathematics and retirement planning. And they talk about, at this point, 30% of a pre-retiree or retiree's assets should be dedicated towards income or other sorts of safe growth funds like annuities or an annuity. So have confidence, because confidence is you providing what they need. See, the argument isn't something you have to bring up. What you have to just do is bring to the forefront the fact that everybody is shifting for income. You have to have income in retirement. So if the industry is focusing on it, it makes it easier to sell. And if you sell the best one out there, and remember, Barron's Financial, I'm just using one annuity for example, but Barron's Financial rated the Athene Ascent Income 2.0, silly name, but it's a great product. They rated it as the #1 FIA for income in the entire country. So think about it. I'll give you an analogy here, something I wrote down. If we were trying to sell hybrid cars, okay, 30 years ago, that's a tough sell. Gas was still cheap. I remember when I was in high school, gas would be in the cents, 75 cents a gallon, 80 cents a gallon, 90 cents a gallon. People didn't really think about global warming and about, you know, saving money on gas. So you're trying to sell a hybrid car when there is no need. See, you haven't heard a lot about income needs, right, in the previous 5, 6, 7, 8 years, because people are focused on market growth. Now it's about income. So now fast forward 30 years, now we're all selling hybrids. People are wanting electric cars. People are wanting hybrid cars. Guess what? You sell the Prius. You sell the best of the best. Hey, if Prius isn't the best out there, you get it. It's an analogy. I have no idea if the Prius is the best type or not. I just know that a lot more people drive them in the last 10 years than they did 30 years ago. So that's what's happening, is we're having a shift in what people's need is, and that should give us confidence. Okay, a couple other things. Something that I got in a book from Tom Hegna. Okay, and Tom Hegna is an award-winning author who is an expert on retirement income planning, annuities, and life insurance. And he'll be speaking. This is a free conference to attend. Tom will be speaking for an hour on stage, teaching you how to sell annuities at the annual convention. He'll be speaking on Friday the 1st of February. You've got to go. If you haven't, you need to be right now getting on the computer, getting your tickets, getting your room booked at the Venetian in Las Vegas so you can go see people like Tom Hegna teach. But he talks about something that I thought was very, very profound. He talks about assets versus income. Okay? So everybody is focused on assets. I need to gain assets. I need to build assets. That's true. But they never focus on income. Speaking about pre-retirement, retirement, and post-retirement. But Tom Hegna says this. He says, an asset can be stolen, an asset can be lost, it can lose value. Think about that. Assets can be stolen, lost, they can lose value. What is an asset? If I have and I think this ring is $50, right? If I have a nice ring, okay, it's an asset. You know what? The metal, they could find a big mine in Canada and it's no longer as valuable if this was some nice fancy ring. It could be stolen from me. It could be broken. I could lose it. Assets are just things to look over. Assets actually cause stress, especially in retirement. Am I getting screwed over? Am I getting charged too many fees? Am I putting it in the right spot? Is it growing high enough? Income, on the other hand, doesn't. Income is what you receive. Income is security. Income is sleeping at night. So we got to talk to our clients. Hey, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the industry is all moving towards income. We're at the end of this big bull run we've had. You need to now start taking your winnings off the table and put them into income. Why? Because assets do you nothing in retirement. In fact, assets can hurt you. Assets cause stress. Assets can be stolen, assets can be lost, and assets can lose value. What we need to do is start talking about income. How are we going to satisfy some of your income needs? One last thing I want to finish with is how do we get this going? Well, Galen Ware had a great idea. He brought to me the idea that he wanted to mail out a letter to all his current clients. So he went to his CRM. He can also go to the carriers, pull the names. He has their name, their address, and the fact that he knows them and he sold them a life insurance policy. And he's sending out letters to them talking about income is needed and assets can be stolen, lost, depreciate in value, stressful. We need to help you out with income. I represent a company that has the #1 rated income annuity in the United States according to Barron Financial. And he's going to mail out this letter to all his clients. How many clients do you have? Hundreds? Right? How many clients do you have? And here's one thing that I want to leave you with. If you're maybe a Mike Kilmet, maybe someone who's not in the field anymore, you've grown large, you're dealing with things all day, managing your business, managing your agents, helping them out. If you're one of those people who has written business in the past, years and years and years of writing business, but you're no longer writing business or not as active, Still send out a letter. Imagine the leads you could create and the money you could bring into your agency and how you could help agents. And there's overrides on that too. So I encourage everyone, if you want to get a copy of this letter, please email annuity@familyfirstlife.com. But then the next step is get your list through the CRM or contacting the carrier or both. You can do a mail merge, simple mail merge through Word, mail them out. An investment of a few $100s in postage could generate some of the most powerful leads and a huge influx of annuity business at a time when the industry is selling annuities. The confidence is shifting because you're providing a need, and we need to get people out of hoarding assets and focus on income. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.